changes the news. I don't feel like things in realignment 10 years ago were changing.
Smith slaps it, looking, Curry toward the corner, trying to get it to Luka. They do, but way outside. Jackson switches on to him. Can he get it away in time on the step back? He does! He hits! He hits! And the Mavericks have won the game! Luka Doncic with a 30-footer to win it at the horn! And the series is tied at 2 games apiece!
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Start from their own 28. Here's Charlie Brewer with time. He'll take a shot down the field. Denzel Mims is there, and he's got it. What a throw and catch.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Pressure coming. Fitzpatrick steps up, throws on the run, and it's picked off. Guess who? Earl Thomas.
Have you downloaded the Sikkim 365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
There are 5 or 6 things we can start with today. La Vega found an opponent, their opening game this week after having their game with West Orange Stark canceled. We could also discuss a couple of notes. Earl Thomas, is that someone the Cowboys will nibble on? And yet we could also discuss it's the opening week of the high school football season in Texas, which sometimes you wondered if we'd get to this point, and even every day there has to be some things checked off the list. We'll hear from Don Hyde from La Vega in just a moment. Also, March Kevin Hoffman, Robinson's Robert Rubel. Dr. Mark Ackerman from the Mayo Clinic joins us today. Dave Aranda from Saturday's media session and Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby. On and on and on. But we have to start with Luka Doncic. I text Rick Barry, the Hall of Famer. He's been on this show before, and I said, hey, could you come on tomorrow to explain Luka? He said, well, I'm on a fishing trip, but I'm very impressed with Luka. He has a great feel for the game, and I love the way he plays the game. And that was one of probably a million things that people said that was outrageous.
It was nuts. It was a great ending to a game. I mean, Marcus Morris, 9 seconds before that happened, hit a shot that looked like could have been the game winner, but left the Mavericks just enough time for Luka to do what he did. Step back three. It was beautiful. It was fantastic. And that was kind of, I guess it's fresh in my mind and probably everybody's mind when you watch, and I'm not trying to compare, but there are, steps to growing as a player and big moments in the playoffs. You think about the Last Dance and what not just Jordan, but all those guys had to do in the playoffs to understand what it meant. And part of it is stepping up in a big moment and winning a game that you probably, nobody thought you were going to win, and evening a series that nobody thought that you were going to be in if you had asked at the beginning of this kind of run through the bubble.
Yeah, I just have the same response to everybody when they bring up Luka. It's just he's special. He's truly special. And as a Mavericks fan who's not had a whole lot to really get all that excited about really since their championship, I mean, it's been, the last few years of Dirk, and then will he, won't he retire? That was kind of the storyline there for a few years, and just how far away they suddenly were from winning another championship. And then eventually they land this young kid from Europe, and over the last couple of years, it's been nothing but as much fun as you can possibly imagine, and certainly a lot of optimism about what they look like in the future. No Porzingis. He's dinged up, and so he can't go, and so that was a mark against the Mavs really to begin with. Luka's ankle is banged up, so it's like, okay, well, then there's that. There's no reason at all they should win this game. They're down 20-plus early on in the game. No reason they should win this game, and yet there they were, despite all that, despite his ankle, despite KP's injury, despite the early deficit. There he was making some big plays at the end, putting up just ridiculous numbers. And, the big step back three when they only needed a 2 to win, but he hits the step back three. He had made a big play right before that as well to put them in that position. So he's unbelievable, and he's only 21. I mean, that's just frightening.
Chuck Cooperstein, that was his voice on the call, will join us today at 5 to look back at last night. Also look ahead the series with the Clippers tied at 2 games apiece. High school football note. But by the way, Earl Thomas is a free agent. After those, 2 or 3 years of flirtation with the Cowboys, he basically has given his walking papers from Baltimore after he got into an argument and a scuffle or whatever it was. The scuffle might not be the right word with a teammate. They let him go. And now you wonder if the temptation is there. Stephen Jones even addressed it. He goes, listen, we didn't say anything about Everson Griffin until it happened, and we'll deal with this or anything else like this the rest of the way.
Well, the Ravens don't blank around, right? I mean, that's the one thing you can say about them. And I don't know how they did it. The early days of Ozzie Newsome, and then, of course, Harbaugh and just the management decisions that they've made. But to keep that as tight of a ship as it's been basically since their existence is just really remarkable when you look at how dysfunctional so many other teams are with their front offices. Like, how much would the Redskins kill to have the Ravens front office? And for every reason, the Redskins should have a better front office than the Ravens. But the Ravens are just steady up front, and they don't play games. And so you walk in that locker room, and whatever it was that Earl Thomas was doing that was rubbing guys the wrong way, he just clearly did not fit in with that Ravens mindset and that Ravens mentality, and they are quick to get rid of him. I mean, other teams are already like, how can we get him? Not even thinking about the fact that, well, whatever he was doing was enough for a team to just flat out cut him when they didn't have to whatsoever. So I don't know how quick I would be to go and pick him up if he was ruffling feathers like that. But I respect the heck out of Baltimore for making that move.
I do too. And now the Cowboys, who have spent some time and invested energy in the safety position, will have to mull it over. We'll see what happens. Paul, before I get to Don Hyde on the game that they've replaced a game that was canceled in a matter of just 4 days from playing the opening game of the year, Earl Thomas a fit? Talented, he's going to make plays, but is he a fit?
Is he a fit in the locker room, which has already started to come together? And do you bring in somebody who has tumultuous? I mean, he punched, what's it, Chuck Clark is the guy's name? Clark, he punched him. So that's why he got cut. But he was also late last year several times and, wasn't completely dedicated to the Ravens. Craig knows this, and you guys know this. I will sing the Ravens praises all the time. Ozzie Newsome was great when he was there. He's a Hall of Famer, not only as a tight end, but as a GM. Eric DeCosta is fantastic. They've got a great owner who keeps his nose out of things, who's a good, balanced kind of human being up at the top there. And, they don't, kind of truck with guys who, mess around and are disrespectful to the organization. Now, Jerry Jones has taken chances bigger than Earl Thomas. He's got one on the roster right now in Alden Smith. So if Earl Thomas can step on the roster and play, then he's probably worth it talent-wise. But money, locker room, does Mike McCarthy like Earl Thomas? All these things have to be taken into account.
All right, so that's that. So Earl Thomas is floating around. Somebody, I'm sure, because of his talent, the big plays, will pick him up, and it maybe Dallas will get to that at the moment. But right now, I mean, the Cowboys seem like they kind of like their roster, but they're always going to tweak. Everson Griffin is a great idea, or Alden Smith, if he stays, focused. And, we'll see what happens. Now, the high school football season starts Thursday, actually. And we will have every day no less than a couple and sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 coaches on one of the shows. Every day, in some days, we'll have segments that will be with a lot of the schools around the Waco and McLennan County and Central Texas area, including today, Mart and Crawford at around 3:45. And then tomorrow, China Spring and Robinson. And then on Wednesday, and we go on. So that's going to be what we do. Plus, we're going to have coaches on for games outside of the 12 to 15 that we do every day, thanks to the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, and Southwest Sports Medicine for their coverage of the coaches segments on SicEm 365 Radio. So, but also we're going to, when news breaks or someone has a huge game coming up or something happens, we're going to, of course, be all over that like we were today. Don Hyde texted me earlier today. I said, hey, have you found somebody for West Orange Stark? He had reached out to me over the weekend and asked me about a couple of programs. Did I know anybody in a program? And I gave him a couple of numbers, and it wasn't Lavaca, Port Lavaca, Calhoun. But he does tell me that earlier today, he sent me a text, we're going to play Port Lavaca Calhoun. Don't know yet where. They're a really good – they've already got Cal Allen on their schedule. We know they play Conley in a week, but they're not afraid. Argyle, they play anyone, anytime, anywhere. We know their mentality, that Modoc mentality. And so Don was able to get Port Lavaca Calhoun scheduled, and I spoke with him just for a couple of minutes about all of what was going on.
You've had a heck of a time trying to fill your schedule because of all the changes, or any time, really. And then you get, of course, the hurricane that wipes out West Orange Stark. But you, I know, have been grinded on a game. What was it like to get an opponent? Port Lavaca Calhoun's very good, just to be able to play the game.
Well, I was talking to our coach this morning about it, and, from the easy thing to do from my perspective would have said, hey, we're not going to play week one and just move on. But in the grand scheme of things, we do this job for kids, and it'd have been unfair for my kids if I didn't go out and try to find us someplace to play. So, we beat the Bushes last night and located a couple of choices and settled on Port Lavaca Calhoun this morning, and it's just the right thing to do for our kids who work so hard for us every day, and we're extremely happy we found somebody.
Were you relieved when it all worked out?
Oh, anytime you can find somebody, 4 days before you get scheduled to play that's willing to suit up and play. We don't have any film on them. They have no film on us. They know what we run. We know what they run. And so we're going to try to figure it out. And so we're going to do the best we can and let the chips fall where they may. And, it's just a chance to get the kids on the field.
Is it going to be Friday 7:30? Is that right?
Friday 7:30. Bastrop Memorial.
Okay. So what was your team like? You scrimmaged, you got a chance to do that last week, and now obviously with the change, very, very experienced and seasoned professional type team. What was the reaction when they found out? I know you just kind of did that earlier, but the reaction of knowing there was going to be a game, their perspective.
We preach to our kids all the time. Sometimes in life you got to overcome adversity, and so we had sent out the game plan meeting was this morning at 8:00 this morning, and so our kids were here. I got a couple of texts last night saying, Coach, what happened? I said, I'm working on it. That's all I texted back. And so our kids showed up late this morning. We had them in a big old room, and I met with them. I had the game plan in my hand, and I told them that sometimes in life things don't work out the way they're supposed to. And we spent all this weekend putting together a game plan and typing it up and breaking down film and so forth, and I grabbed it and threw it in the trash. That's a long process to put together a game plan. So I threw it in the trash, and I said, but the difference is when you're facing adversity, you got to find a way. And I said, we got on the phone to find your game, even though that was canceled. And so we're going to get out there today, get busy practicing, trying to figure it out, and we'll have a game plan for you tomorrow. So, sometimes when you slap in the face of adversity, it's how you respond to it.
All right, so that's Don Hyde. You can tell he's pumped to have a game. Last year, Port Lavaca Calhoun was 9-3. They beat Cal Allen, who La Vega will play in non-district. They're a 5A school. Beat Cal Allen last year 17-6. Lost to Bernie Champion in, I think, what would have been the second round of the high school playoffs. So this is another one on La Vega's schedule. And West Orange Stark would have been a hell of a game. And that's just who they are. A lot of players love who they play. They get tested. It's not about what happens. They want to win, but they want to be ready for when things happen, when district starts, and eventually when they get to November and December, which we hope that's not going to be a problem to do. All right, what do you want to do here, Paul? Take a break here?
Yeah. By the way, I guess you just kind of prepare for that like you would do a scrimmage and, chalk it up to.
Well, it's kind of like, you always hear coaches say this. We do what we do. We can't worry about. They still want to scout. You don't want to get like what you do and they go 4 wide and you're all stacked in they'll be fine. La Vega, but this will be a hell of a test off the top against Port Lavaca Calhoun down in what did I say it was? Bastrop. No, not Bastrop. Is it? Where did I say the game was?
Bastrop's in Louisiana, so I
no,
doubt
there's
it's
a Bastrop, Texas.
Oh,
too.
there is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there is. You're right.
Yeah, they'll be playing. I just went blanking with it. Yeah, it's in Bastrop, Memorial Stadium in Bastrop. When we come back, your thoughts, 254-339-1122, the Willis Law Firm chat room. We have more people in the chat room right now than back since a while back. If you're on the chat room, give us your thoughts. What do you think about Luka? Did you watch some of it? Some of you maybe don't watch the NBA. Some of you are disgruntled with the NBA. If, in fact, you didn't get to see last night, you missed something, no doubt about it, as the Mavericks and Clippers now tied at 2 games apiece. Many things to get to. Your calls, comments, questions, and opinions. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoke, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace. On Saturday night, I had myself a bone-in ribeye. Cooked the bone-in ribeye, and it was absolutely perfect. I've never had a steak that I ordered, customized, picked up from Waco Custom Marketplace that wasn't perfect. In fact, I toyed around a little bit as well and put it was like a 3-pound prime rib. And I put it in the smoker, like what you put ribs and brisket and stuff like that in it. I gave a piece of that to Paul. He said it was delicious and it was perfect if you want it medium or you want it like medium rare in the middle. Perfect. Craig's going to take one and piece of it home at some point tonight. And what I had was just fantastic. No matter what seasoning you use or not. That's what they have at Waco Custom Marketplace. You can customize an order when it comes to the meat market. Brian Etheridge comes down, it seems like 3 times a week. Baylor's Taylor Brian goes over there quite a bit to get his steaks and much more. But you also can get seafood, poultry, pork, not just beef or steaks or brisket or tri-tip. And the bakery bakes fresh bread every day. Fresh bread every single day, plus kolaches and pies and cookies and cakes. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, and now pre-made meals that are huge portions. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Couple of comments that stuck out to us, and maybe you, Dave Aranda, had his media session just after lunch on Saturday. We'll have that for you in just a moment. Also a question for me about, or really almost a comment question about the Charlie Brewer and a lot of the work he's done in the offseason to continue to get his arm at a certain level. But the college football preseason poll came out. The top 25 Associated Press poll came out. And I noticed it. And the same people are at the top. Texas is, I think, 14, and A&M is 13. Oklahoma 16. Oklahoma State 16. Iowa State 25th. OU's like 6. Baylor's in the receiving votes, like 3 or 4 teams out of the top 25, but getting some love. So, Mike, and that's kind of where most people have had them. Should the preseason top 25 poll have included teams that are not going to play this fall?
No. It should not have.
No. I mean, what's the point? What's the point? I mean, looking at this list of your top 25, number 2, throw them out. Number 7, throw them out. Number 9, throw them out. Let's see. Number 12, throw them out. Number 16, throw them out. Number 17, throw them out. Number 19, throw them out. 22, throw them out. 24, I mean, that's like 10. That's 8, 10 teams I just reeled off in this top 25 that are not officially going to be playing this fall. So you have like not quite half, but close to half your top 25 that you could have put in any other number of teams that are actually going to be playing. I don't know why you didn't just do it that way, but yeah, I think it's kind of silly to put out a top 25 knowing that a number of these teams aren't even playing right now.
So after a week, when they have to redo the rankings, do you just bump everybody off of it like you should have done in the first place? And then the 25 best teams out of the 76 that are playing, do you put them in?
I saw Kirk Bowles make a comment. He has a vote in the Associated Press top 25, and he was instructed, as everybody else was, to include everybody. Now, you know, there could have been some of these teams that have the asterisk next to them that a lot of people just weren't going to vote for. That's kind of hard. But if you're an AP voter and you're asked to include everybody, shouldn't you include everybody? If that were the instruction, if those were the instructions.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, you follow the instructions, but I would also question the instructions and at least say but why? Because I just counted up, that's 9 of your top 25 that's not playing until at the very earliest January. So I mean, 9 out of your top 25, that's just ridiculous. It's your number 2 team in the country is not playing right now. So they're the number 2 team in the country. How are they going to be number 2 if they're not playing? So, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just silly.
Here's Ralph Russo, Associated Press, on why AP preseason poll included teams that have postponed their seasons. It was more of, let's give people a look at what the preseason would have been, but once the games start, we'll only rank the teams that are playing. So how about this? Is this so that some teams now in 5 years or next year or in 20 years, you can sit there as something that's so simple as, by the way, so-and-so's been ranked in the top 10 preseason poll 32 of the last 37 years.
Yeah. Probably because that's silly, and that's what college football is. I mean, at its roots, it's just a silly thing. And so there probably is an argument like, hey, put us in here even though it makes no sense just so we can have a silly slogan to put in our media guide.
So you're Ohio State, you're ranked, what, number 2 or whatever
number
it is.
2.
Mm-hmm. You don't play, and you drop 70 spots. So, and I know that's just being flippant. But okay, that's what would have happened. The problem is that's not what is going to happen. Yeah. So isn't that about right with Baylor just outside the top 25? In fact, I thought maybe some wouldn't have him in that position because there's so much of the unknown. But I think that there seems to be some positivity, and we're going to hear from Dave Aranda about that here in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they're a top 25 team, but I think if you eliminate 9 of these teams, that opens up 9 more spots. So the teams in front of them that are getting votes, you got Memphis, Vautech, Boise State. And then again, even in the others receiving votes, Arizona State's not playing games. Washington's not playing games. So there's 2 in front of Baylor alone that are receiving votes that you wouldn't even count. So, you redo this thing, and they're like number 26, basically. So, I think that's fair, given the number of teams not playing.
And if they win their opening game against Louisiana Tech, which will be a challenge, then there's probably a chance they ranked in the top 25, whatever that might mean. Now, Dave Aranda was in the media session. All 3 of us were there, as was Grayson a part of Saturdays? Or I know that we had somebody else who was a part of it as well.
Somebody recorded the video for the site,
right. So one of the questions, one of the things that is obviously very important is, what is the health of Charlie Brewer? I know we've had the discussion. People have thought about the concussions and all that. We've given you feedback from, in fact, family and even, in a way, Charlie about all that. But one thing is sure, he's taken a beating in 3 years. His arm strength at the end of last year did seem to kind of lose some of the steam. Some of it is what I also told you. There was an offseason in which I think they were going to go in and maybe clean up a shoulder. And that's when all of a sudden McLemore, the kid from NC State. McClendon came in. So then all of a sudden you got a guy who's a pretty good player, and you don't want to lose any reps with that. So Jalen McClendon comes in, and so Brewer has to just keep, as he does, grinding through. So here's my question for Baylor head coach Dave Aranda on Charlie Brewer.
Thank you. Go back to David Smoke.
Dave, Charlie Brewer has almost even said that his arm strength at the end of last year got a little bit weaker. He took a lot of hits, as you know, but he worked out not only when he was with you or away, but also went to a couple of places to work on his arm strength. Can you tell? I'm getting feedback that his arm strength, there's quite a bit of zip on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's true. That's true what people are saying. And so there's multiple times. And I find myself, there's other throws that he makes that are real impressive throws. But I can think right now, just talking to you twice, of where when he's done with his rack of plays, that last play was from this hash to that far number, and that ball's on the line, And so those obviously jump out at you. I have to look for some of the other ones that aren't quite that. That aren't quite as long as that, but he's been impressive, and I think there's a swagger about him, and Charlie has that anyways. But he knows that we're going to be good, and he's feeling the confidence that comes with an O-line that's improving, and then skill that's doing a lot with the ball in their hands. I think the third piece with that is going to be just the relationship that he has with Coach Fedora. I think it's a close one, and I think Coach is adjusting and manipulating the offense to fit what best suits Charlie. Getting the ball out, option routes, backs out of the backfield. Reduced cut down formations. 1 high, 2 high beaters, and so I think those are all things that he's liking and he's thriving in right now. So that's exciting.
All right. That's not speculation. That's from the head coach, and what a lot of the work. And Bobby Stroop at APAC told us that the one up in Fort Worth has been working with Charlie on precision type drills, which also then sharpens your throws as well. Now, defense. How many? 9 starters. Is that right?
Yeah, 9 starters.
What did you think he was going to say about that? I asked him the question we're about to have about, is there a chip on their shoulder? He didn't think he saw that.
No, and I don't think everybody needs to have there's a Baylor team that constantly had a chip on their shoulder, even if they had to make it up, even if it was perceived. And sometimes I think that that's necessary. Sometimes you have to make things up or trump things up, little slights. If that's what works, it works. That's how it is. If you're in a hitting streak in baseball and you think you're doing it because you wear dirty socks, then you are. Just ride the wave, whether that's real or not. It's fine. But I didn't expect him to say chip on their shoulder, because I don't think Dave Aranda is a chip on your shoulder coach. He's a process oriented coach. He's a very level headed coach, and a lot of times chip on your shoulder and level-headedness doesn't jive.
I don't think there's any reason for a chip on the shoulder. It's not like anybody's bad-mouthing the defense, and yeah, there's starters needing to be replaced, but I don't know how many people outside of us are really focused on that as a storyline. I mean, it's certainly not something nationally, and even with so many starters to replace, I mean, they're still being respected in the polls. I mean, at least garnering some votes, so there's some voters out there who don't feel like there's going to be that much of a drop-off, so I don't think that there's any need for a chip on the shoulder. I think it's just a bunch of young guys who are going to have to step up and, become starters.
And here's Dave Aranda Saturday when I asked the question.
Follow up on your defense. Do you feel like, because there's been so much talk about how many players left, the 9 starters and whatever, do you sense or can you sense yet that they have kind of a little bit of that chip on their shoulder that people may not believe in them and they want to prove whatever they need to prove?
I haven't felt that. It's a lot of what I've felt has been just like the energy that Terrell Bernard brings, the energy that Jalen Petrie brings. Jalen has emerged, excited about his emergence. Our skill, our corners, right? Mark Milton, Kalen, Raleigh, just their confidence when they're over there making plays one-on-one, and they're showing a 1-eye and then squirming to a 2-eye, and the corner hardens his feet, makes a play on a slant, 3rd and 3, and the energy that comes from that. And so I've felt that, and so I think the opportunity is there for guys to really make this their own on that side of the ball, per what you're saying. And I think guys are kind of trying it out. We need someone to buy it and take it home. And I think here pretty quick we'll get that.
So that's Dave Aranda on the defense, and if whether or not they, again, this seems like a team that's pretty workmanlike. Maybe there's a few that kind of notice that, but we'll know eventually when we have a chance to meet with some of them again, or at least have Zoom discussions with them. And a couple of players will be available this week. Yeah, tomorrow. Now, the offensive line. Craig, what did you think he was going to say about the offensive line?
I mean, I didn't think he was going to pile on anymore. I felt like, his point was made last week, and it was one that wasn't very glowing of them. So typically when that happens, I don't think coaches are dumb enough to kind of keep riding that, because I think then you can create a problem by doing that. And so you kind of have to give and take somewhat. So I felt like he would probably be a bit more positive, but, he's also going to be honest. If they're not playing well, they're not playing well. But I don't know. I guess I just expected kind of more of the same and maybe a little bit of improvement.
Did he surprise you with what he said?
No. And it doesn't surprise me that, that's the position group that has the furthest to go. I mean, it has been for.
They're as good as how good they're going to be, right? I mean, that's probably the case of every.
They're going to get. Yeah. But then they need some work. I'm not surprised though that he didn't, say, well, we had a bad week or anything like that. Like he gave a different thought to it. And Jerry Hill's question on this was, because of that, do you have like a wave of people or like a group that you can rotate in kind of with each other if you're not set on starters or anything like that? So that was kind of the point of the answer to this question.
Okay, here's Dave Aranda.
I'm impressed with just the improvement and the attitude and the work ethic of our offensive line. It's they're paced and led by Coach Wickline, and so I feel like it's going to be a strength of our team, and I feel like the attitude and the edge that I think is developing there is a real positive for us, and is something that can lead out in front as compared to kind of supplementing from behind. And so I'm excited about that direction. And I think, the first group has been dominant at times, has been improving in others. I think the second group, we've got some time, but there's quite a bit of work to do. I think some young guys there. I think depth is probably a concern with the offensive line, and so I think we've got some pieces and some really talented players that can grow into roles. But right now, it's sort of everything they do is the first time they've done it. And so, it's going to be ugly before it starts looking pretty. But so far, so good. I think there's a lot of things to be excited about O-line wise.
It's going to be ugly before it starts to look good. And you just hope you clean up some of that before you play La Tech in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I saw some different reactions to what he said there. Part of it was people getting over the moon over what he had to say about the first team unit, but he also added on that second team unit's got a long way to go. So very quickly, an injury here and there, that could create some problems. And so, I don't know when this O-line's finally going to get to a point of where you can stop worrying about it. But, man, it'd be nice if it could just get to that point sooner rather than later, because it really has been like a 4-year waiting game. And now, granted, they've improved enough to be able to go play for Big 12 titles again. So it's not like they're just horrendous by any means, but there is a little bit at times of a lack of an ability to just go run the ball when you want to. And I know everybody wants to be able to do that, but there's just times where they can't even try and do it. Yeah. And that improved last year. So you expect more improvement this year, and hopefully you get it, and hopefully you get to a point here in the next couple of seasons where, it's just more about plugging and playing guys rather than like trying to find guys or trying to mature guys and do all of that behind the scenes work.
All right, at 3:35, that's Dave Aranda. He'll be available again, I think, Saturday, this week on Saturday, and there's another day later in the week that he might be available, some players or two that we'll have. How about this? And Bob Bowlsby at 4:30, Dr. Ackerman today at 4 o'clock. I got to check on him because he was going to email me an update. Nebraska announced 51 athletic department staff members will be furloughed from September 1st through December 31st. 51.
That's a very long furlough.
That's about probably 20%, maybe 20-something percent. Mm-hmm. And I don't know exactly department staff members. We're talking about those who we know that set things up. Obviously game day operations and fan engagement. 51.
Yeah, that's tough.
10% salary reductions for everybody else in the department staff for the same time period.
I mean, they said that they were going to get pinched by the financial losses, and this is what happens. And so, for everybody who's wanting colleges to not move forward and wanting them to stop down until there's some type of a vaccine or whatever, this is the reality to that method. And, there's not a right way where there's no collateral damage. But, on the one hand, yeah, it'd be great if we could all just sit at home and wait this out for forever and ever, although it's almost been, 7 months already. But, when you do that, there's cuts that are made. And so not surprising, and they won't be the last athletic department to have major cuts like that.
By the way, Dr. Ackerman said he's good to go at 4 o'clock, so we're good with that. The doctor, heart doctor, and specialist from the Mayo Clinic. I saw a note, and this is something we could ask Bob Bowlsby. Do you think now, because of what's going on, that this would be a good time to actually, there's the grant of rights, and this is a good time to start looking again, which got to a point where it made me almost heartburn sick about realignment, that you start to kind of now piece things together because we have seen who's a little bit splintered or not?
I don't know about realignment. May not be the right exact. I mean, realignment's the word they'll use, but I don't know if you don't need to look at the whole way you're doing everything. Look, every problem is an opportunity in disguise, correct?
Yeah.
Ben Franklin said that. And so we have a lot of problems.
I thought it was Herm Edwards.
I'm sure he has said it too. But every problem is an opportunity in disguise. So instead of, I know in the short term, you have to fix whatever's going on. And I think sometimes when you try to fix things in the short term, you forget about the long term because you're so concerned about putting out the fire that is spreading right now in college athletics. But there are so many things that they need to change and so many things that they need to work on. This is the opportunity. The world told you your model does not work and is not completely sustainable. That's the cosmos, the world, everything telling you this doesn't work. So if you want to think ahead and start doing these things before these television contracts are up, seems to me like you've got a couple years to come up with a new plan.
Yeah, I would start working on it right now, and I would hope that this isn't just a start and that's something they've at least discussed. I mean, it was but a couple of years ago when the realignment talk was really reaching a fever pitch, and kind of the previewing of 2023 and what that's going to look like. I mean, shoot, that's less than 3 years away now. That's less than 3 years away when realignment's going to potentially happen once again. And the doomsdayers will tell you this is when all the big schools are going to break off and create basically their own mini NFL. And, that's been one of the predictions. And there's going to be a bunch of teams that are currently Power 5s. They're going to be left out of being a Power 5. That's been one of the predictions. And so there is that potential. There's also the potential that not much really changes at all. But certainly this whole virus has thrown everything for a loop. And I think certainly changed maybe some of the grand plans people thought were going to take place here in 2023. I mean, I think when you look at the geography, it doesn't make as much sense now for, in some super conference for USC to be traveling across country to go play Florida on a semi-weekly basis. So I don't know if the whole NFL model will work. I think that would not even be really college football either. But, Blue Blood Schools fans want that. So I don't know what ultimately all these presidents and athletic directors and everyone else has in mind, but if you're Baylor and you're certainly not a sure thing in anything, you're doing your due diligence and trying to make sure your place is as secure as possible.
By the way, and they're better now than they were 2 or 3 years ago had this gone on, and hopefully that stays the same for their sake. From Shooter Tex on the Willis Law Firm chat room. I haven't heard J.C. Valentine's name much recently. Is he still on the offensive line depth chart? What are expectations around him?
I have no idea about expectations, and as far as I know, he is. But, we're not out at practice, so it's not like we get a ton of time to really, see guys walking on and off the field like we used to, or see if a guy's got a knee brace on, or see any of those things. I mean, there were times last year where we walk in the indoor and we're waiting for a rule, and you can see, Gavin Holmes has a gigantic knee brace on or things like that. We have no access to any of that right now. We've got our Zoom calls just like everybody else.
And I don't think there's even an official depth chart released yet. There would have been post-spring.
And that might be a question to ask Aranda. I mean, that's the other thing is the camp thing's been so weird because, typically you'd get your month before the season starts build up and you'd be out there a couple of times a week and you'd eventually touch on every position. But with this, I mean, think about half the questions are about coronavirus and testing and, racial injustice and all sorts of things that aren't, just X's and O's. So I'll try and make a note to get around who's doing what on the offensive line, but we have not had that type of insight yet.
Also from Dave Shook, who's a part of Learfield IMG broadcast, who listens to us. Dave, thanks for listening. How much of that has to do with keeping certain programs, Ohio State, from seeing their lengthy streak of poll appearances end? That's what I brought up.
Yeah.
Because college football loves that stuff. And it's kind of, you're very proud to be able to say you finished in the top 10 or 5 or 15 or 25 for X amount of years in a row.
And it'd be one thing if it was a postseason poll you're asking about, but you're bragging. I mean, that's how silly college football is you're bragging about just being predicted to be good.
Well, and by the way, I got a note about J.C. Valentine. He's fine.
Yeah,
just not sure where he is as far as the depth chart.
You know what's funny about college athletics and the way they do that? I mean, look, A&M got popped not popped, but caught, kind of claiming some of these deep down magazine titles from the 50s.
Oh, they definitely did. Auburn did too.
Auburn made some up that they didn't even play in. UCF has been claiming a national title for the last couple of years now. That's what happens. Because you can just do it. I mean, there's no set rule. So
well, I'm going to tell you this, and you had your team, and we have our teams and stuff, but I mean, there's an amazing streak that being a fan of certain programs that when it gets in 15, 20, 25, 30 years of 9 wins or more or bowl appearances, that's a big deal in college football. But you're right, some things are made up. There are these national championships that are not the AP or what used to be the UPI, and now there's one. And the New York Times used to have one. Speaking of which, because of an article that they wrote over the weekend, we will, by the way, be talking to Dr. Mark Ackerman from the Mayo Clinic at 4 o'clock, Bob Bowlsby today at 4:30. But high school football in Texas scheduled to start. 5As and 6As still on hold and away. Some private schools as well. Every day, at least 2 and sometimes as many as 4 high school coaches will join this show. and you'll get used to kind of the rhythm. Mondays at 3:45, Mart and Crawford. Tuesdays at 3:45, it will be China, Spring, and Robinson, and on as we hit everybody right around us. Coming up next, we'll start that today thanks to the U.S. Army Recruiting, Waco Recruiting Company, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance and Southwest Sports Medicine. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
It's employee pricing for everyone going on right now at Richard Carr, the summer savings event. You pay what employees pay all month long. So take advantage now as we are already on the 24th of August. So if you're looking for, let's say, a truck, how about qualified buyers right now saving $8,000 on a 2020 GMC SLT Crew Cab? How about some SUVs? Saving $7,000 right now on 2020 Acadias. You can save $7,000 right now on 2020 Yukons. You can save $7,000 right now on 2020 GMC Terrains. And among those line of SUVs, you got the best-selling Buick Enclave, one of the best-selling cars in all of 2020. It's got first-class seating for up to 7 people. It's a quiet ride inside the cabin, plus it's got loaded safety and tech features. It's a uncompromising full-size SUV. Right now, it saves $7,200 on a 2020 Buick Enclave. Plus, you can also save thousands on 2020 Buick Envisions or 2020 Buick Encores. Get the deal here. Summer savings event. Thousands in savings can be yours over a wide variety of vehicles. And it doesn't stop there, because when you purchase a vehicle at Richard Carr, you not only get great prices, but you also get free oil changes and in-town priority warranty service. Richard Carr Motors are the people you can count on. Local family dealer run by Baylor alumni. They just want the chance to earn your business. So stop by the Daily Disinfectant showroom, see their safety-focused staff, or they can bring the test drive to your home, because your comfort and safety is Richard Carr's first priority. Find them online at richardcarr.com or Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
The big summer clearance event is still underway at Allen Samuels in Waco. Now update your essential transportation needs with 0% financing and no payments for 90 days on almost everything in stock. Brand new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cabs, ready to roll with 0 for 72 and no payments for 90 days. And Ram Tradesman Express Quad Cabs feature up to $8,500 in values. We'll save you thousands at your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive at 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Hi, this is Mart High School football coach Kevin Hoffman, and I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new Sikkim 365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Mart Panthers football coach Kevin Hoffman is sponsored by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine, First National Bank of Central Texas.
Is this week, the first week of the season, any more special because of all the delays, the suspensions, the unknown?
Every day that we have is special because you never know when the whole thing could get the plug pulled, and so this week is definitely something that we hope would come and be here, and it's here, and it looks like everything is a go for Texas high school football this week.
Teague, they have a lot of course, talent. What Donnie's done is great over there, and that's who you start with. And obviously, the last year they were a little bit down compared to what they've been. Your thoughts about opening up with them?
Well, I mean, he sees Teagues has got they got a good program, and they've been successful there. For years we played them. Back when I first got to Mart. Back in 2009, 2010, we played them a few times, and I know that they gave Cameron a run for their money a few times, and so I know what they bring to the table. Coach Osborne's done a great job over there, and we're just looking forward to play anybody at this point on our schedule.
You have the tradition, the expectations, the standard. Every single year, the players understand, the coaches understand the expectations.
It's been that way here for a long time. They won, Mart's won state championships and won a lot of games before I got here, and we've been successful with Coach Nell when I was here as the offensive coordinator, and I've had some good success here being the head coach, and these kids in this community and the coaching staff, they understand what the expectations are, and there's no backing off of that. We put that out there, and if it's pressure or whatever it is, we put that on ourselves, and we look forward to it. But and again, along with those things, that Mart's going to be successful long down the road after I'm gone, and this coaching staff is gone, and other people are in here. It's just a place that has got a tradition of winning football, and it's going to continue to be that way forever.
Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trust the doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Hi, this is Crawford AD head football coach Greg Jacobs, and you're listening to Sikkim 365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Crawford Pirates football coach Greg Jacobs is sponsored by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine, MP Electric.
Greg, obviously this is it for you. This is you didn't know if you'd eventually coach your first ever game at Crawford as the head coach, but now that it's here with all that you've dealt with, is this week even more special because of that?
Oh yeah, it's special. It's an opportunity that I've looked forward to, and just having an opportunity to spend it with these kids that are so excited to get ready to play, it's been even more special.
How did you handle the scrimmage as far as what you saw, and do you know a little bit more about your team even though you had been a part of the staff before?
Well, in years past, being the defensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, those are the things that I focused on most in past years. Now you kind of sit back and you get an overall view, overall perspective of everything that goes on the field, and that's kind of new to me and intriguing. But I spend a lot more time noting other things that I in the past haven't spent much time paying attention to. So it's been interesting. It's been good, and I've learned a lot from that, and only hope to get better at it.
What do you know? Goldthwait, I know, has kind of dropped lately. Your thoughts? They have a tradition-rich program. Your thoughts about them?
Yeah, they're a young team. I think they have 15 juniors. A lot of them played last year sophomores. They've got 7 returning on offense and 5 on defense, and they're growing in their new offense that they put in last year, and they're getting better at it from what I can tell in the scrimmage. Goldthwait's always an aggressive group. They love to play the game, and it's going to be a challenge. They're going to be better because they've had a year more experience with their new head coach.
It will be your first ever game. We mentioned that earlier. Will you sleep the night before? Will it be different? Do you feel like you're ready for that Thursday night? Go to bed, know what you have coming up on Friday.
I think it'll be a little different, but gosh, I've been in this business a long time, and a game is a game. Even though it's a little more special for me, I hope that I sleep well, but I look forward to it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Listen, in the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people moving in from out of state to Waco thanks to Chipper and JoJo. And while we welcome these new citizens, they unfortunately brought some of their bad habits with them. Hi, Jay here from Pickup Outfitters, and you know what I'm talking about. Naked trucks. You'd think everyone moved here from McNewtville. Well, we shouldn't judge them, we should help them. For example, when you see a recent transplant truck from a less civilized state like California, instead of saying, "Your truck is disgusting, your bed is exposed, get a bed cover on that truck, buddy," that's a bit harsh. Instead, try something like, in Texas, it's not polite to drive around with your bed exposed. Maybe you should check out the excellent selection of bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And then if they refuse, you can say, "Well, I hear New Mexico's a nice state." Let's help our new neighbors and let them know that truck nudity is not okay. Let them know about Pickup Outfitters of Waco and send them to our website, createacommotion.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Back to Doncic. Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer! Let's go!
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio. In this hour, we will hear from Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby at 4:30. Also in this hour, and as we have done before with an interview with Dr. Ackerman, Dr. Mike Ackerman from the Mayo Clinic, Winland Smith Rice cardiovascular, genomics research professor of everything. He joins us for the second time. Craig, Paul, David Smoke, Sikkim 365 Radio. So you kind of showed up on America's map.
Yeah. If you're referring to me, I don't know, maybe. How are you doing?
We're doing well, Doctor. We really, really are. And it seemed like, how have anything changed for you once you made some comments about what college football was looking at? Conferences were shutting down. Then you became someone that was helping people understand myocarditis. And how much has that changed it for you the last couple of weeks?
It's been an interesting couple weeks. What we've been trying to do is just, restore some semblance of balance to the cardiac universe from my standpoint, because things were getting whacked out and my patients were suffering. And so that's really the reason why it all started, is my patients who are at risk of sudden death every day from their genetic heart condition, for which we try to diagnose, risk stratify, and treat as best we can, were coming unhinged with this notion or this perception that this SARS-CoV-2 virus was destroying the heart muscle left and right. And that just required some clarification. So it depends on the who, and I suppose who wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. Some have found this very refreshing to see what, take a look under the hood and see what is the strength of evidence for some of the concerns that were raised about COVID-19 and myocarditis and the heart. Some saw this through a different lens.
Dr. Ackerman, the Mayo Clinic is renowned for everything that they do and the cutting edge research and treatment that you guys do. in the kind of overly political world that we have now, you mentioned something in your statement saying that people hear what they want to hear. How challenging is that as a person who's a researcher and all the different things that you do with this, to have all this stuff that you research, and then just because it's something that someone doesn't want to hear, you have to kind of combat that, as opposed to, somebody who knows what they're talking about tells you something, you go, oh, well, that's something to take in.
Yeah, it's really an incredible time we're in. In my 20 years now on staff at Mayo Clinic, I've never had a medication before in my career that I've talked about or have used for my patients or have encouraged or worried families to avoid if they have long QT syndrome turn into a red pill versus blue pill. I've never had recommendations about lifestyle and choices that we make about, quote, erring on the side of caution and which side is that error occurring on, sort of becoming red tinted versus blue tinted. And so it's just really interesting. And I just try to look at the data and try to not let those other things get way in front of the data. And I think with respect to the heart, we're going to look back at this time and see that other things got in front of the data as it relates to what really is the COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, and the heart issue. Is the heart issue a tilt button issue? Is it a turning, the straw that broke the camel's back issue? Or do we need to recalibrate the strength of evidence and the weight of evidence assigned to that concern and dial it back in and say, it's worthy of respect. I respect this virus as much, if not more than anybody, but maybe the heart part of the equation in the discussions got a little bit in front of what the current scientific truth about it would be.
Doctor, we're seeing now students returning to campus. We're seeing athletes return to campus, some with, so far so good kind of experiences, and some like North Carolina who've had to shut things down. Has there been anything that you've seen over the last couple of weeks as universities have tried to return to normal that has stood out to you or perhaps has been a surprise in any way?
I think it is the unknown ingredient in the soup to stir all this together and see what the soup is going to be tasting like. And the soup as served in some campuses is not tasting so good because these schools, as an observer, I think these schools have done an incredible job trying to plan, trying to, re-outfit the campuses for everything from sanitary stations to safe distancing locations, hybrid learning, all of these things. But the wild card was what was going to be the conduct and the behavior of the student body. Was this going to be, return after 5 months of quarantine at mom and dad's house where now, oh my goodness, let's catch up for lost time. And we see what happens if you're not wearing the mask, if you're not staying physically distanced. You can quickly contaminate the school's best laid plans and all of the precautionary measures and logistics that they've set up if we don't have everybody buying in with the preventative measures that work. And I was hoping we would see that embraced perhaps better by our young generation, and maybe they will now that there's been a few wake-up calls and say, for those places that love sports or love on-campus learning or love whatever, the best way to guarantee that environment can continue is to do the things that work.
Why are we in such a society, and you have to go about your job, and not everybody agrees with what you might say, and you may not agree with what others may say. But in this case, the New York Times had a piece that came out over the weekend about how conferences went about their decisions, and it seemed to me as if there was kind of a sliver of it, Dr. Ackerman, that tried to question how you got involved with the Big 12, when I know that you've been involved with some of the great stories that Baylor's had when it comes to their basketball players over the years, including King McClure and others. It's not like you just showed up 2 weeks ago. Why is it that someone may want to question what you have to say because they don't agree with it?
Great question. I think you have to ask the sources. And all I know is, I happen to be at a place that some people will know about, Mayo Clinic. I happen to take care of thousands of patients at risk of sudden death from genetic heart conditions. I happen to take care of over 700 athletes who have been disqualified elsewhere because of their heart condition and came to Mayo Clinic for hope and healing and a second opinion to see if a return to play was possible because they weren't coping very well with life, having had, from their view, oxygen taken away from them. So it's not as if that one tweet on August 11th where I simply posed a question about how much weight was assigned to COVID-19 and the heart in the decision-making process was a tweet, from a nobody. Now, they have to then do their due diligence and say, this is a different perspective than what we've been hearing or what the freight train or the snowball going down the hill or whatever, illustration you want to use, what we've been hearing. Maybe we want to hear this fresh perspective. And I imagine that enough people in the Big 12 reached out to, you mentioned the commissioner of the Big 12 is going to be coming on later, where his office reached out and said, can we hear your perspective? We're going to be hearing the perspective of those who think that we should hit the pause button on sports, but we want to understand why you have a different take about how spooky the heart is. And as to that New York Times article, I've never told any conference to soldier on or to cease and desist. I simply have answered their questions as it relates to help us understand how spooky or dangerous this COVID-19 heart thing is so that we know how we could potentially weigh in the balance all of the other items that we are considering as to whether we think it's safe to proceed, reasonable to proceed, or whether it's better to stop for now. And so, I think people, to say that things have agendas probably becomes the understatement of 2020.
Yeah. I know that obviously there are those that were able to either reach out to you or knew you or spoke with you. And the Big 12 that evening after we had you on the show at 3:30 decided to forge on, to continue on. And some of them, I had a couple who sent me notes that said Dr. Ackerman was a rock star. That's not why you said what you said. Does it matter who reached out to you and got information from you as long, like, for example, if there's a controversial story, we try to tell both sides of the story, let our audience be smart enough to make their own decisions and their own judgments. Does it matter who reached out to you? And when they did, were you surprised that they did?
No, because I don't need any designation, rock star from one radio station and apparently big knocker from the Viking station up here in the Twin Cities. All I need is to be called dad and husband and a physician who cares profoundly about his patients and their families and does his best every day. And so I will talk to anybody who's interested in my opinion. And obviously, when the Big 12 Commissioner's Office and the chair of the president are interested in hearing my vantage point, because it is simply my vantage point as a genetic cardiologist at Mayo Clinic. It's not the Mayo Clinic vantage point, it's mine. So I get my vantage point and I get to express it to those who are curious about it. And many people over the last 2 weeks from all walks of life have reached out to try to understand why I am currently sizing up the evidence about COVID-19 and the heart differently than what was coming down the mountain.
So you're not going to add Big Knocker to your Twitter feed?
Nope, not anytime soon, because the moment I do that, the one guarantee is when you've been married almost 32 years, any of those titles rapidly disappear.
When you go in, I think one of the things that people, and we've been really glad to have you on the show, because a couple people told me after you were on the first time, is that they kind of helped them wrap their arms around how medical research goes. Because you guys, the data you take in isn't just 3 or 4 people. This is tons and tons and tons of things. And how different has this been trying to assess data so rapidly when a lot of times you get maybe even years to study a certain phenomenon before you can judge things on it?
It's an amazing time, isn't it? Because we're seeing an amazing, an unprecedented amount of global resources being committed to figuring this virus out, eradicating it, thwarting its spread, eliminating it, getting life back to normal. We've learned an unbelievable amount about something that we knew nothing about, basically, December 2019, and the pace is a frantic pace, and so you see a convergence of the normal world wants the scientific world to move at a pace that is just truly unprecedented, and the scientific world and the engine behind it has ramped up as rapidly as can to get understanding. The technological sector has done the same. I mean, it's been an incredible feat of the human spirit and of, countries all over the globe to be all hands on deck. But part of that, we're making decisions and observations in real time before the confirmatory study has necessarily come in, or before we better take a left turn because it looked like that turn might have gotten us off course a little bit. So we're correcting course in real time. It's sort of more of a footprint of a war, with the unknowns that are going on out there. And we're going to look back on 2020 and see a lot of decisions that were made that were, almost prophetic, and we'll see other ones where that was way off the mark and blew it. And hopefully, the heart and the will and the desire behind it to make the right decision is all coming from a good place.
Dr. Ackerman, one more thing, and I think that, Paul, you're good with that, is how many ADs, presidents, conference officials from anywhere else, after you mentioned what you did and after the dust had settled when the Big 12 said we're going to move forward, as is the SEC and the ACC, did other conferences reach out to you to pick your brain?
Yes. So it's public knowledge that the day after the Big 12 presidents, athletic directors meeting on August 18th, that the next morning Conference USA leadership reached out to do the same for their Zoom meeting that evening. And from August 19th to 6 days later, let's just say the number of other individuals from other conferences from all walks, presidents, athletic directors, team trainers, team physicians, interested people, that number, I guess, would be called lots with capital letters.
Okay. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you jumping back on with us and appreciate your knowledge.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and Sikkim.
Thank you. That's Dr. Ackerman from the Mayo Clinic. Dr. Ackerman, director of Wendland Smith Rice Genetic Heart Rhythm Clinic and the Wendland Smith Rice Sudden Death Genomics Laboratory at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. One of the things that he does a pretty good job of, and someone that I spoke to in Mayo Clinic PR was that he can take something complicated that otherwise would give someone like me a headache, and he can put them in layman's terms.
Yeah, that's basically what he did the first time he joined us, and that got a lot of play because I think a lot of people were looking for just a concise and clear message and understanding of what exactly is going on and what exactly people are arguing about. And in this particular case, it's the whole scare of potential heart conditions, which is what he's shot down, or at least said is not as big of a risk for these young athletes as it is for older people, and that's why it should not be a deterrent in them trying to play college football. I mean, that was his basic message, and you would have thought reading the Stuart Mandells and some of the people that were taking their pot shots yesterday for whatever reason, you'd have thought he was saying, like, COVID's not a real thing and don't be worried. No, he's talking about the heart issue that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 used basically as like their main reason for not playing this year. I mean, that was the big scare, right? Like, it was nothing. It was not even a topic of conversation. And all of a sudden, the same days that the Big Ten and Pac-12 make their decision, all of a sudden this heart condition is like this big story, and oh my God, and we've never heard about this before. How in the world? And all he said was, in response to that, along with many others who just shot bullets straight through the numbers that the Pac-12 was apparently working with, saying that there's no way a decision should be made off the information they released. So all he's saying is, like this big concern about the heart, there's a concern there, but it's not like what it's being made out to be. So, if you want to get into the fear and panic and all of that, then he's not going to be the opinion you want to hear. But if you want to hear somebody who's just level-headed and saying, hey, in this particular case, this is being blown way out of proportion and is in no way a reason for us to not operate, then you know what? I'm willing and open to hear that, and I think he's coming from a good place with it.
This writer actually made the comment on Twitter: one college fighting to play football keeps secret its own doctor's COVID-related cardiac data. Another enlists an expert from Twitter. Yeah. The inevitable result of the college football industrial complex meeting an obstacle called science. Dr. Ackerman's not a Twitter expert. That's a stupid and absolutely unprofessional thing to say because he put something up on Twitter. He works at the Mayo Clinic.
But see, these writers, they know what they're doing. They put stuff like that out, and they already have a defense for it. So their defense on that would be, but no, all we're saying is that he reached out through Twitter. When no, you know what you're saying. You're trying to imply that he's just some random Twitter person. But they always do that. Those guys they always do that. They take their little pot shot, but they always have a cover for it. So in this case, take their pot shot. He's just some random Twitter guy. Oh, no. What I was saying was that he reached out on Twitter. We know what you meant, dude. And you know what? These college football writers seem to be getting really annoyed by the people who are pointing out, like, man, you guys just don't seem like you want to have a season. I mean, you talk about clutching pearls. The college football writers nationally are the biggest pearl clutchers I've seen through this entire ordeal.
I agree.
And it's insane, and I understand caution and precaution and being smart about things, but like every time there's positive news, these guys just want to like go throw a wet blanket on it and try to question it. They're not questioning the Pac-12's experts. They're asking the Big Ten to show their work, so I'll give them credit for that, but I mean, I'll use Dr. Ackerman's credentials over Dennis Dodd's or anybody else for that matter when it comes to heart issues and COVID-19. They don't know everything, although those writers do try to pretend like they do.
All right, 4:21 when we come back. Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby will join us. We've brought up Luka in one of the greatest games in Mavericks history.
Just wish there was a crowd. I do wish that there was a crowd for that one because while the NBA's done a good job trying to balance that, it was missing. Like when we look back on the highlights years from now, because that will undoubtedly be on his highlight reel, that's going to be missing that element to it. But regardless, it was still very special.
If someone didn't know about him, you do now. It's one of those moments. Well, I mean, he's not LeBron or whatever, but he's been a great player. He's been a really, really good player. Andrew Baker loved Luka when they drafted him. Luka, he had that little line that we used to play. He absolutely just said from the beginning that he thought Luka was going to be dominant, and obviously he grew up. And he's playing? And so that was a moment that will probably launch him into the stratosphere for a long, long time. 2-2 with the Clippers. Also, the La Vega found an opponent other than West Orange Stark, who had to cancel because of incoming hurricanes. Golly, what a year it's been. And they have Port Lavaca Calhoun. They'll play them down, I keep forgetting, in Bastrop in a game on Friday at Memorial Stadium, among a couple of other things as well. All right, there's a couple of stats about COVID. We got Bob Bowlsby in a second. Speaking of COVID, how about this story? The NFL over the weekend, the BioReference Laboratory in New Jersey generated false positive results for 77 NFL samples. 5 labs are being used by the NFL's 32 teams. The weekend's incident affected 11 teams. They were investigating what's going on. How many of the millions of COVID positive tests are just being attached randomly anyway? I'm not trying to make fun of or light of that because it's a serious deal. How many of them have been positive? I've heard stories about people going through the drive-thru to get a swab, get tired of waiting, leave. They get a letter in the mail. You tested positive. How much of that is crap?
Well, I mean, that's part of the thing. We had to turn this testing around so fast, and there wasn't a solid plan for it. So when
How can you send somebody a letter in the mail they tested positive when they never took the test?
Yeah, when you're making this up as you go along, that's what happens.
Or maybe make it up facts. People take it as facts as well. Not saying it's not a bad deal. It's been a horrible deal.
There are false positives, but there's also false negatives. So, I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, that's when you have inaccurate testing. That's what happens. You don't have 100% of anything. So, that's not surprising. I haven't been keeping track of everything on a daily basis just because it gives me tired head, and I get tired of it. But I know that there's others that have to. That's part of their job right now.
All right, we are joined by Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby on Sikkim 365 Radio with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, and David Smoke as well. Bob, thank you very much. We just had Dr. Ackerman on for the second time. We had him on a couple of weeks ago, the same day, in fact, that you guys made the decision to move forward. How much do you have to deal with the pressure from the outside of trying to say you're wrong, and does that even enter into your mind?
Oh, I don't spend much time consuming that. We listen to our experts, and Dr. Ackerman is certainly one of those. But we had 10 physicians and scientists from all over the country that were advising the A5, and we were all hearing the same thing, but we came to different conclusions. And so, the long and the short of it is, we're not going to do anything to jeopardize the health of our student athletes, and we athletic administrators like myself are not making those decisions. We're relying on Dr. Ackerman and his colleagues in infectious disease and people on our campuses. And so I don't spend much time second guessing it, but the other part of it is there's no evidence that a young man or woman is more likely to catch the virus in a sports environment than they are any place else in our society. And so as long as we can continue to say that, I think that we can move slowly and make small adjustments and do the things that our doctors and scientists are telling us to do.
Would yours or the conference's opinion have been any different if schools had, across the conference wholesale, decided not to attempt to bring their students back on campus?
Well, I think student athletes have to have at their disposal any access to education that other students have access to. So, if online becomes the new normal, that's the basis on which they go through college and get their college degrees. On the other hand, if universities were to have an outbreak and then decide that they were just going to shut the university down, you certainly can't have athletic activities if there is no college, because there is, they are student athletes after all.
Commissioner, when it came down to making the decision, you guys were on your own timeline. Certainly the Big Ten and the Pac-12 making their decisions kind of, I guess, just media-wise put a pressure out there. But what did you make of the communication between conferences and just how everybody has either worked together or not worked together during this time period?
Well, we definitely have worked together. I think there are those who read into the collaboration that we were going to end up with identical outcomes. I didn't ever think that was necessarily the case. In the end, we need to do what's right for the 10 institutions in the Big 12 and for the student athletes that populate their teams. And so I don't think I've missed a day, a work day, of not talking to the other 4 autonomy commissioners. But that doesn't mean that we are in 100% lockstep and that we aren't going to do the things that are in the best interest of our student athletes and our schools.
The mulligan year that the NCAA is granting anyone who participates in athletics in college this fall, how much could that turn into what seemed like a really nice opportunity and yet a cluster for the rosters themselves?
Well, in the case of fifth-year seniors, where they've already used a red shirt and that sort of thing, they will be added to the 85 head count, and so it won't have a profound impact on it. It may affect how they recruit and who they recruit, but generally speaking, there will be a flight of scholarships available for incoming freshmen, and they'll. I think it's probably instructive to look at what happened with the spring sports athletes. There were probably half of them that chose to move on with their lives and not come back and play the extra year. There will be some that want to come back, and they're certainly welcome to do that. But the thing I feel best about is that we've given the student athletes choices. They can opt out and keep their scholarship. They can play, and if the season gets disrupted, they're going to get a year back. On the other hand, if they have a red shirt available and want to use it, they can do that. And in all cases,